I want to welcome you back to another episode of what I branded Pivotal, since these interview style segments tackle impactful CPG industry topics and lessons from the business leaders that live it every day. Now, I don't want to oversell this special edition episode, but it's kind of a big deal. It would have been a big deal even during good times, but consider the collective facts. I spoke with the founder and recently ousted CEO of Bang Energy, Jack Owoc, at a time when the initial stalking horse bids were happening in that Chapter 11 bankruptcy auction and when his public voice has been taken away. Our conversation weaves in and out of a variety of impactful and insightful subject matter that includes who Jack thinks will buy his company that he founded and the reasonings behind it. Since Jack is locked out of company matters, he doesn't have any insider knowledge, and neither do I. So, any of these predictions or anything that we kind of talked about were offered up for entertainment purposes only. But that's delay enough. Here is the conversation I recorded with my good friend Jack Owoc on May 22nd of 2023. All right, so I'm with the here with the man, the myth, the legend, Jack Owoc. I know that's one of those things that people like to start off with, but I mean, I think of you as like an astute businessman that took, Vital Pharmaceuticals, the parent company of Bang Energy, from I think you were sleeping on a mattress in the back of a store to this company that ultimately did $6 billion in lifetime sales over the last 3 decades or so. I think you did 5 billion over the last 4 years. I mean, it's amazing. Like, I think about this, I'm like, you've taken this thing and it's gone in a stratosphere or whatever that few people have ever even been able to even breathe or get to that rare air. But you've done it, so we're obviously talking, in a different kind of situation or maybe a hard time or something that we'll kind of talk through here. But I wanted to make sure we set the tone and make sure people know, like, I mean, you did a
Well,
lot
let
of
me let me
amazing
give the
things.
proper. I'm just a legend in my own mind, and Joshua Schwall's the true legend.
Yeah,
Um, and
I
having
wish
said
I.
all that, having said all that though, I want to always be gracious and show gratitude to all the people that made us great because we can't do it without other people. And so, if you ever purchased a Bang Energy drink or even got one for free at a show, I appreciate your support.
And I think that obviously people have been paying a lot of attention recently on the bankruptcy process and kind of trying to understand that. I've had a lot of people kind of talk to me and say, this maybe is the first, bankruptcy process that they've followed along with. It's typically not something that consumers as a whole are all that interested in or even maybe know too much about. But this one seems to be completely different, which is bringing on, I think, a ton of different dynamics to everything, because there is a lot of more eyeballs, I guess, that are coming on to this. And you have obviously been front facing within social media. And even before that, I think that, I've been in the sports nutrition space for, the last 14, 15 years. And I always tell people, before social media, you were still the same guy, but social media just, I guess, put you on a platform. So, but people are been obviously paying attention because you do have that kind of brash personality that's on social media a lot. At least until recently, they took your social media away, and people are paying attention because of that. Because I think that you've built this movement, this brand that people care about. They are
I
interested to
think
see
I
what's
think too
happening.
though it's also like watching a train wreck, right? Morbid curiosity. So if you look at BevNet last year, 7 out of the top 10 articles in BevNet were about Bang, and we occupied spots number 1, 2, and 3. So yeah, there's a lot of people that are watching it that are interested in business and this kind of phenomena that we created and that we actually broke open the energy category for everybody because if we didn't give up our distribution system, there would be no Celsius or Ghost or any of those brands because you need distribution. And So a lot's happening that's very interesting, and we realize a lot of people are jealous, and then a lot of people support you, which is normal. You take the good with the bad, and I'm just grateful that we did $6 billion in sales. I mean, who has a chance to do that? Right now, we're in a very critical state, though, because coming off $1.1 billion in sales for just Bang last year, and about another 200 million with our ancillary products, we are now in a position where we're having a fire sale, and it's crazy because all the in bankruptcy. Remember, Vital is paying for like firms like Latham Watkins and Berger Singer to come against us. We pay all their bills, and so they repeatedly file motions to enrich themselves. And so the bankruptcy process it's a very corrupt process. Look, if you don't ever have to get into it, don't be forced into it because it's a blood sport, and the attorneys and everybody else are very adept at just milking the company dry and don't really care whether you succeed or not. And so it's a great learning experience for us. Today we are taking final bids, but I'm not a part of it because in order for them to do their dirty work behind the scenes, they recently ousted me as CEO and chairman of the board. I'm still sole shareholder, which means I own 100% of the company, but that means nothing in bankruptcy because once they take over your board of directors, like they did, hostile takeover forced by Truist Bank, where they committed bribery and coercion, which simply means forcing somebody to do something against their will using money. And when they did that, that was their goal because when they took over the board of directors, they could fire me. Because when I'm CEO and chairman of the board, I have a lot of power and they wouldn't be able to carry out all these dirty deeds and just milk the company dry, which they did. Right? They built tens of millions of dollars, and then recently the bank gave us another 100 million. And in the documents that my attorney signed, again, it's bribery and it's against my will using money, but 67 million out of that 100 million went to professional fees. It doesn't go to building up Bang Energy. And that's why I signed up for the financing because I said 100 million, man, we'll make Bang go back through the stratosphere. But nope, that's not the way the process works. Look, I'm not complaining. I'm just telling everybody, don't make the mistakes that I made, that we did, because 67 million goes for the lawyers, the bankers, everybody else, and zero. Oh, well, 33 of that 100 million is used to build up VPX. But when they're all coming out, it's very difficult. So right now we're in a fire sale. Joshua and I are excited. We're going to give you what our views of who the players might be to purchase the company. Everything we say is just speculation. And so you have to take it with a grain of salt. I'm sure Joshua will agree on some things, and then he'll probably disagree on others, which is going to make this interesting. So I would say the first one we should probably discuss is Monster because they're the biggest creditor in this, which means that we owe them, well, we're appealing the lawsuits, but we would owe them 175 million from one lawsuit, one judgment, 273 million from another, and the 175 million has a 5% royalty on all Bang sales from here forward attached to it, which might end up being over 20 years the biggest number out of all the numbers. So let's just say right now it's $500 million in debt that goes to Monster, whoever's going to purchase Bang Energy, if they're made whole. And so let's discuss what, Joshua, you go first, and then I'll follow up. The first one we're going to discuss potential bidders is Monster.
Yeah, I think that was a good one to start with because I didn't know if you wanted me to bring that one up. Obviously, for personal reasons or emotional reasons. Obviously, you're not the biggest fan of Monster, but I think if you look at it from a logic standpoint, I know that I mentioned I think it makes the most sense for them because again, largest creditor, they have the royalty kind of attached to that. They also, would arguably enjoy some of your large manufacturing assets that you have. That would also help them with their business that is growing right now. I know it's tough to see maybe the positives of like what Monster could do with your brand, but have you even tried to think about maybe the positive of that at all?
Absolutely, because we're in a critical situation right now. So the debt is about 1.07 billion. I called Joshua up and I go, bro, but he didn't have that money laying around. The problem is when you have that much debt is that you can't phone a friend. Nobody has that much money to get you out of that debt. So it's a crazy situation because you have those two lawsuits hanging above your head for over 500 million. So I think Monster is in the driver's seat in the sense that if they buy it, in a sense, they already have a $500 million credit. And I think they could get Bang. Again, remember the debt's about 1.07 billion. So let's just say 1.1 billion for the sake of ease. So if you minus 500 million from 1.1 billion, you got 600 million that Monster would have to come up with to make everybody whole and to get a
Yeah.
brand that I believe they could put into the Coke system and Monster system and turn it to 5 billion in sales very easily because they have the economy of scales. The trucks are going into the stores, and so the only thing they would have to do is tell the sales guys that, look, just you have 3 rows of Monster, put 3 rows of Bang, and we'll double your commission. And what sales guy wouldn't
Yeah.
be up all night? Sales guys are racehorses to try to do that. So they have the infrastructure, and they could use it as an offensive as well as defensive move for all these brands like Ghost and C4 and Prime that are moving up the ranks. Because again,
Yeah.
it's all about distribution. And let's face it, Coke and Monster, besides Red Bull, have the best distribution. So I think they could get it for a song. They could either pay the 1.1 outright or just probably take a credit from the 500 million. So that's my take on Monster. I believe they probably have the most to gain. But then let's discuss other strategics that, in my mind, Anheuser-Busch would have kind of the most to lose if Monster did that because then but we have about 260 Anheuser-Busch distributors who would then be de facto partners with Rodney Sachs, and I don't think they would like that. So Brendan Whitworth is the CEO. Uh, Hopefully he's thinking about that because and then it would also give Monster an alcohol distribution system overnight.
Yeah.
And they voiced you've told your viewers that they want to come out with an alcohol, and I think they have, but it would give them access to a distribution system that we just hand over to them.
Yeah, and I think that's an important point to make about any of these kind of predictions is that they arguably, if it's not Monster, they have to play nice with Monster because of that royalty slash, trademark kind of holding. They were going to want to, play nice. So any of these people are going to have to either be, in business in some way with Monster and Rodney, or figure out some way to get out of it. So it's not going to be somebody that they can't be. So I think a logical or an illogical, I guess, option, even though it could happen, is something like Pepsi.
So here's my take on Pepsi. Pepsi, it definitely makes sense. Their goal is always they've been very vocal about trying to gain 20% of the energy drink category. I think they could push Celsius up to 10, but it's probably going to get it hard to get it way past that. And I think you've mentioned that in the past. And then with Bang and Celsius and Rockstar logging in about 3 or 4 percentage points, I think they could hit that 20 or exceed it and then be a player with both Monster and Red Bull. Now, what's interesting though is that I believe Celsius is also a player. And here's where it gets kind of dirty because Pepsi is the exclusive distributor for Celsius. I think Pepsi would be in an extremely bad position um, if Celsius purchased Bang because they're exclusive distribution partners. And now I know this dealing with Pepsi, there's 30 points there, right? 30 points that Pepsi would lose every time Celsius sold a Bang, and that is bad news for Pepsi because Pepsi could be making a full 61 to 64 points off a Bang, or they could give up 30% of that share, which is huge if Celsius were to come in and do some kind of deal. And so I think Pepsi, even though we strongly dislike each other. Of course, I don't come with the brand, so it's nothing on Pepsi to take the brand, but I think they would make a critical mistake that they would never forget for a lifetime. I mean, 30 points is a lot, Joshua. I know it's not a lot to you because you're throwing around all kind of money, but so that's my take on kind of the Celsius Pepsi dynamic. Tell me what you think, though.
The Celsius name is interesting. It was one that never really came to mind in my head, at least initially. But if you look at their balance sheet, it's obviously strengthened significantly. They would probably still have to go out and finance a good portion of the winning bid if they wanted it. But I do think that what you're talking about is pretty interesting because there's that angle there that then puts them in a particular situation. So I think it's interesting to consider Celsius and then how does that influence Pepsi? There's all kinds of things that kind of are going on with that particular idea. It's interesting. It wasn't one. It was definitely not one that came off the top of my head.
Yeah, Pepsi should think long and hard about it. But I don't know who's in the mix because when they ousted me as CEO and chairman of the board, I no longer get to listen to
Yeah.
what's going on or know any of the bids or anything like that. So it's just as mysterious for me as it is you and everybody listening. just because
Yeah,
you're
that
the
was.
just because you're the 100% owner means nothing, I guess, in bankruptcy. It's the craziest
I know
thing.
it's It is. It is. That's probably one of the most confusing things for people. They were like, wait a minute. So Jack owns the whole business, but he can somehow no longer be CEO. I said, welcome to the difficult side of business that happens on the dirty side of it, the stuff that they don't particularly teach you too much about in business school, but the stuff that used to be probably a lot more prevalent in the 80s and stuff, a lot of those hostile takeovers and things like that. It doesn't happen as much, but it happened here.
Crazy what's going on is that when you're CEO, the only thing I gave myself was an Escalade, right? And there's four more payments left on it, right? So it's a perk of business. Like, I should be having like five Ferraris according to the other supplement guys and all this craziness, but they they reported the vehicle stolen the other day. So my
Mm,
son is an ex-cop, and he said, "Look, if you're driving that vehicle, the procedure is they pull you over at gunpoint, lay you face down, and handcuff you, and then start
mm.
asking questions." So they've done all this crazy vindictive stuff, and it just continues where it's unbelievable. But they know. I mean, we had the most craziest deposition last Monday where I implicated them all on the record of fraud and an ongoing racket of organized crime. And I'm coming after them. So
Mm.
I think that's going to be that's going to definitely be the next episode and a lot of great stuff for BevNet and everybody else that likes to watch train wrecks.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to talk about maybe a couple other ideas that we had, or at least I'm going to throw one out there that had some rumors for a tiny bit that I think at the time maybe didn't make sense, but Keurig Dr Pepper, and we made, I think you and I had talked about this before about when before the bankruptcy they didn't have the distribution network that made sense for Bang. Like you were too big, and the needs were too big for them. But now that the sales have obviously changed in terms of these last couple of months with the listings and just people maybe buying other products or whatever, that maybe makes a little bit more sense because maybe they can support a brand like you. They still, other than C4, they don't have much in their kind of corral of energy, even though they also prioritize that as something they want.
Yeah, I think as far as money is concerned, they're positioned the best. They did make it public that they had 20 billion to spend last year and never did spend it. The only thing they did recently is C4. I think it was 896 million, but C4 is not going to get them to that 20% mark. I think that was their goal, just like Pepsi, right? But before C4, they had 0.03% of their
Yeah.
sales were energy. I mean, that's very small. And so, to me, they need Bang the most. But they, I think they believe that they could be the exclusive distributor, but they just can't. They would have to use a hybridized model to get the numbers up there of the current AB and some of their distribution. They are strong in certain pockets, but probably 50 to 60% of the U.S. they're okay, but the other probably 50 is not that great. And I think just like Monster, Pepsi, or Coke, or anybody, KDP can't afford to miss this deal because remember, you're buying bang for pennies on the dollar. If you look at the valuation for C4, 896 billion at 30%, right? That's a valuation of about 2.8, 2.9 billion, right? Bang did 330% more revenue, according to IRI data, last year than C4. So right now, they could get Bang actually, of course, time's ticking, but for less than they did of C4. And I think it would be a big fail on their part if they didn't get Bang.
This is kind of a side question since we are talking valuations. Like, what do you think it's going to settle in at? Obviously, pennies on the dollar from where it should have been prior to the bankruptcy, but where, like, a number off the top of your head, have you considered that?
Sadly, I think it'll go for less than 2 billion. In order for me not to be personally responsible, because one of the lawsuits I'm named personally, it has to go for 1.1 billion or above. So yeah, it's a sad situation. You know, I've done this for 29 years, from the mattress to the mansion I'm in now, sleeping on a mattress, and it's sad to see all these people just purposely destroy the value of the brand. But you know, when you play $1 billion in $1 billion market, you got $1 billion problems. That's just the way it is. So I'm not complaining. And anyone that wants to get up there, look, all the evil in the world comes against you because it's purely demonic at that point with BlackRock and Vanguard and everybody else who's going to take your business where we're conservative leaning and I believe in family and God and everything like that. And a lot of these people aren't on board with that type of thinking. That's for sure.
Yeah. And that kind of leans into the idea that there's probably some of the private equity kind of, investment bank side of it that's looking at, this asset as it's a stressed asset that they can obviously, you know, put their finger on and their money behind it and maybe turn it around and sell it off to somebody else. I'm sure there's a few circling around trying to figure it out.
Right. So here's some interesting numbers that'll kind of blow your mind. When I left the company and had access to the numbers, and it was being run fairly good, we were starting to make some gains. Um, we were averaging about 30 million a month in sales in Q4, and then in the beginning of Q1 of this year, right? But this is going to make you jealous that you didn't invest, Joshua, even though you can anyhow. But it's only in 30% of the total universe that Bang was in. So that
Mm,
means if somebody like Monster or Coke or
yeah.
KDP or Pepsi put it back where it belongs, then it would be doing close to 100 million in revenue a month. That's mind blowing. That means that would equate to 2.24 billion in sales. And it could easily happen only with a Pepsi, Coke, Monster, or KDP type because they call the dogs on us. And so what I mean by
Yeah.
that is, and I'm not going to mention names to create animosity or whatever, but like Circle K, when they kicked us out, they told us who did it, right? These are the guys. And those are the guys, that I just mentioned that would buy it and would say, hey, Circle K, we own it now. Put it back where it belongs. Wawa,
Yeah.
put it back. Give all banks shelf space back. And so that's an interesting dynamic that whoever buys this, it's still a formidable brand. It's just if you have that distribution tenacity and just the power like a Pepsi and Coke does. 36% of all sales in convenience are by Pepsi with Frito Lay and Gatorade and Rockstar and Celsius. And so it's probably above 36 now that they got Celsius. I'd imagine it's closer to 40. So imagine the power they have with the
Yeah.
C store is look, get rid of Bang, decrease Bang's shelf space, or you're going to pay a premium on our products. A convenience store couldn't survive without Pepsi products because it just dominates too much. So that's the other dynamic. So did we speak specifically about Pepsi or just about Pepsi Celsius?
Well, I mean, I think at least I had kind of mentioned that because of their need to or have to work with Coca Cola on the royalty side, like, maybe it's a mute point. They don't care. But I was just kind of mentioning that.
Remember though, that case is under appeal. So
Yeah.
just to
So
give
maybe they have
people,
yeah.
well, just to give people a little background. So we were forced to go into arbitration with Monster, and we never signed a arbitration deal with Monster. So I believe it'll be overturned on appeal because you you can't be forced to arbitrate with somebody that you didn't sign an arbitration agreement with. There was supposed to be three arbitrators. It's supposed to be billed as complex litigation because it's over 1 million. And the arbitrator, one arbitrator, billed it as complex, but he wouldn't let the us have three arbitrators, which is the AAA arbitration, their own rules. And so there's a lot of crazy stuff here that will be overturned on appeal. I'm 100% certain. The debtor, which is VPX, they're appealing it, and I'm also personally appealing it. I filed a pro se motion. So that I have a strong belief that that'll be overturned. And super
So
creatine is real, Joshua. It is it is real. Let me just tell you what happened. So in the other case, Monster's own study showed that super creatine increased creatine in muscle tissue in humans 2%. But why only 2%? And they said it was insignificant because they used 67% less molar super creatine than they did creatine monohydrate. And so, yes, it appears insignificant. If I had you drink 2 glasses of sugar and one had 67% more and go, that one was 67% less, it was insignificant in raising blood sugar. So, and then there's a study that we have from Peking Biotech Medical School, #1 in China. It's just a phenomenal institution. It shows that supercreatine increases in the blood for 24 hours as it disassociates the creatine from the leucine molecule. The judge wouldn't let it in. Like,
mm,
it's like if your friend killed somebody and you have DNA evidence, but we're blaming Joshua Schall, and the judge says, "Sorry, you're you're going to be locked up for life in the death penalty because we're not letting the DNA evidence in." So it's just the corruption that you could see, and so we get this judgment for 175 million dollars, and an hour later another judgment for 273 million dollars, and it's basically telling us a message. I believe that's not a coincidence because we were waiting for 4 months. We don't like you guys over here on the West
mm.
Coast. But again, I'm not crying. It's what's happening. There's a lot of evil and corruption in the world. You got to deal with it.
So that Trump support, Jack, that come back to get you.
Yeah, you can't support who you want these days.
At least you can't do it publicly because
I did
people come
I
at
did
you.
support some Democratic politicians in Pembroke Pines because they told me I wasn't going to be able to produce shots. They wouldn't sign the thing below the thing if I didn't support them. So that's just the way the world works. If you look at like some of the monster attorneys, when you pull it up, it's interesting because they give 15 grand to Dems and 15 grand to Republicans. So either way, they win. I want to just
No,
state on the record, I have no bones against Rodney Sachs. He used the legal system to do what he did, and he won the game, so to speak, and put us in this position. And I don't do business like that. But if he's a lawyer from South Africa, so is the other co-CEO, Hilton Schlossberg. They're both lawyers, and they run more like a legal operation than they do an energy drink. But again, I have no hard feelings against them. I like the battle. And he couldn't. The great thing I like is that he couldn't beat the drink itself, right? So he copied it, and then he won by lawsuits, but he never won by creating a better drink, and I'm proud of that fact.
yeah, you'd love to see business being, competition on the battlefield of the actual category. But as you mentioned, a lot of times, there's some things from the outside, kind of layers if it's legal or something else that ends up being involved here. But I do like the idea that product versus product, it's marketing versus marketing. As long as everybody's playing by the rules, we're doing okay.
Right. So like Ghost and Celsius, for example. If I had to beat them by suing them, I wouldn't feel good about it. Why, like you didn't beat them. I mean, I would want
Yeah.
to beat them in the marketplace. That would be embarrassing to me. I'm
Yeah.
not like that anyhow, but it's like you didn't really win because you couldn't win, so you had to take an alternative step. So let's talk. Who's the next guys up? So we discussed KDP. I feel they can't afford to lose it. Celsius can't afford to lose it. Pepsi can't afford to let Celsius get it. Monster's kind of in the driver's seat because they get a $500 million credit. Coke, Coke could have been one of the investors, and all I would have to do is merely change the thing where it says nutrition facts and put supplement facts, and
Mm.
dietary supplement on the front, and then they would have been able to circumvent their relationship with Monster. I think Coke is making a very bad decision too if they don't get it. I think they need it because I think there's a lot of tension always between Coke and Monster, and this would kind of level the playing field. Where if they had to tell Monster to go pound salt, they could fill that, and Monster wouldn't be able to get a distribution system up quick enough to where they wouldn't lose hundreds of millions in sales, I believe. But again, this is all speculation, folks. None of it's real. We're just having fun.
Yeah. And that one was a fun one because you brought up a nuance to the labeling that would then change it categorically away from a beverage and into a supplement, which, you know, for the exclusivity clause that's in there, it would probably be able to sidestep it. Obviously, it would go into courts and they would have to battle that out.
So
It
let's
could.
talk about the shirt you're wearing right now. Can we do that?
What's up?
We're going to talk about the shirt you're wearing. I
Well,
noticed on your left chest you have a Under Armour logo. So this is critical. It doesn't say Under Armour anywhere on there, does it?
mm-mm.
Right. So look at this. Now this is going to blow your reader's mind and your mind. That's
Maybe you
bang.
just take
Right.
that word away.
Just take the word away. The B is a separate trademark, and boom. I mean, not boom because that has a B in it, but you know what? And so what I did this experiment with some of my friends at Anheuser-Busch, and I said, and they go, well, what's the can going to look like? Because I don't want to pay that royalty, right? And this is when we were talking about distribution contracts moving from Pepsi into the AB network, and I sent them the can, and I just had my graphic artist remove Bang, and they didn't even notice. They go, "This looks great. What's the difference?" We just removed the word Bang, just like Nike or anybody else. Nike shoes, Nike shirts, your Under Armour shirt only has the logo, and this logo is much more dominant than any of those logos in the
Yeah.
sense that it occupies, almost half the face of every label. And I'm not saying it's better than Nike or Under Armour like that, but I'm just saying it's a more dominant feature of the product.
Yeah, the consumer recall on that, I would imagine through a survey or insights would be quite high. They'd be able to pull out the B as bang without having the word bang. That would be my assumption. I don't know if you guys did the research on that, but my assumption would be that people would be able to recall that pretty quickly.
Oh yeah, I mean they recognize the B just like they recognize the swoosh. But if you look at the word bang, it's white knockout on white, so it's barely
Yeah.
recognizable anyhow. And so yeah, people could see the B. And Anheuser Busch, the distributors we showed it to, they didn't even recognize that we removed the word bang. And I was
Mm.
gonna be like Prince because you're always talking about rap artists and everything like this, and the product formerly known as Bang.
Yeah. Get a legal change on the trademark and everything. You only want to be called as the product formerly known as Bang.
Yes. So who else was up? That was oh yeah, Congo Brands.
Congo Brands, yeah, that's an interesting one. I think they would obviously need to get PE money behind them to close any of that because I don't know their financial see through, but I can't imagine they have that kind of cash on hand like some of the names we kind of referenced earlier.
But let's jump back to Celsius because I was just thinking of something. Celsius had a market cap as high as 8.4 billion prior to the Flo Rida lawsuit, and right now I think they're down to about 6.4 billion. But if I believe the excitement of having both Bang and Celsius, I bet they would jump to about a $10 billion market cap. What's your view on that?
I mean, I think that it would be an interesting pairing of two obviously South Florida energy names that have a similar kind of nutrition trajectory into beverage. It would be an interesting combination. Now, what would be that market cap? I don't know, but I would imagine that you would get a significant lift off of that based on modeling out revenues. I mean, it would be interesting. I don't know what number would be. I don't even know where it's at now. If you say it's six, whatever, I would say it's probably going to give them at least a 20 to 30% lift on that based on probably just modeling out revenues.
Yeah, I think the stock market to me is it's mostly hype, right, and
Yeah.
wow factor. And so when you say Celsius and Bang, I would be rushing to invest.
It would be definitely an interesting pairing. I would say that.
Because
But
look,
you did.
you just said you said you're indicating you can make a quick 20 to 30% on your money, and I'm believing closer to 40 or 50.
So hey, this is not investing advice. Anybody listening to this, neither one of us know anything about any of that. So don't be trying to arbitrage the market right now or or anything like that. We're gonna get the SEC coming after us now.
Right, but look, if a publicly traded company gets it, I'll be investing, and that's not investment advice. I'm not even in. I don't even own shares in the stock market. Now, I've been told that one of our attorneys purchased one share of Pepsi for me and one
Hmm,
share of Monster so that they can listen to the meetings. But I don't know if that's true because I'm locked out of VPX and I have not seen those shares if I do have them.
that's interesting. And then I guess another one in my head, and then we could kind of like I guess group these all together. But like, we talked AB InBev, but like outside of that, in terms of these alcohol distributors, it could be like Constellation Brands, or it
But
could be
wait a minute.
somebody.
Wait. We got to discuss AB InBev. Come on.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't think
yeah. I
we
just
discussed it.
yeah,
What's your?
glossed over them.
Yeah. Okay. So they own. Correct me if I'm wrong. 49% of Ghost.
I, I do not know. I will.
See, even if he did know, he wouldn't disclose it. But wouldn't that be public information because AB is publicly traded?
I think well, it went through ZX Ventures, so or I think it's ZX Ventures is their venture fund, so probably it gets buried in things.
Well, I need you to look that up, Joshua. Come on, man.
Yeah,
And
yeah. I'm pretty sure it's buried. It's not in footnotes or in disclosures, but it might be.
but anyhow, so I would see AB as a super big loser if they didn't buy Bang. Because again, these opportunities are very few and far between because we have 277 distributors. This is to the best of my knowledge, and about 260 of them are AB. And so
Hmm.
AB is getting nothing out of that. Only the franchisees, these independent distributors, are getting all the profit. When AB owns the brand, also it gives them leverage over these franchisees to do certain things and to sell certain things, and they can exercise a little more control. And so, I think it would be an epic fail on their part if they didn't purchase it because they already have Ghost, and again, it's just look when you're distributing Ghosts everywhere you put Ghosts, you put Bang. It's the economies of scale. Tires are expensive, gas for trucks, drivers, reps, everything like that, and you're basically cutting that in half with Bang. And it could be a good compliment for Ghost and Bang to go after that 20% market share. Where is Ghost right now? Do you know?
273 somewhere around there, maybe. And that's last, I think, 4 or 12. It's not obviously on the last 52, but
All right. So who do you have next? Altria?
well, you think tobacco's coming in and grabbing Bang?
Well, my idea was for somebody like Altria, look, you have this horrible reputation. You're killing all your consumers, right? So you got to get new consumers because you're poisoning with tobacco, and you need to change your reputation drastically. And so something that has no sugar, that's a clean energy drink, I think would be a great move for them. But how much did they lose when they lost Juul? I mean, that had like a
Yeah,
$28 billion market cap. So who knows? But let's
yeah, yeah.
I think again they needed to change their reputation, but that's about all I could say about them. But who else you got?
Well, I was going to say some of those other alcohol distributors, if it's Constellation Brands, or if it's even somebody like, going international, somebody like Heineken or something like that.
Yeah, Heineken would be great because they have a big international footprint. That's a great point. and they have excellent distribution in America. They dominate here in South Florida, just dominate Anheuser-Busch in this market. It's all about Heineken's brands. So used to be Gold Coast distribution, but now it's in the Reyes brothers, and it's
Mm.
one area of the country where they just crush AB.
And then I was thinking also like another name, again, maybe doesn't make sense, but in the same vein, Boston Beer Company. They've obviously put a lot of investment towards their hard seltzer, and then that didn't necessarily work out all too well for them. Maybe they're looking to, add something different to their portfolio. Maybe that's good for the investor group.
Yeah, I think the energy category with Bang is way more solid than the seltzer category that seems to be just up and down, but mostly down, Joshua.
Yeah. So it was a flash in the pan. It was definitely something that caught fire, even caught your attention, I think, a little bit. You guys dabbled in it for a second.
Yeah, that's another thing we have under our belt. I think we have, gosh, it's a wild guess, but we have 88 specific alcohol contracts in our portfolio to distribute the Bang Hard Seltzer. And we got close to 1% market share right out of the gate with the Bang Hard Seltzer and Hard Tea, but that market just fell through the bottom.
Yeah.
But again, when you buy Bang, you have access to all those contracts, which is, if you have an alcohol brand, is amazing.
Well, I'm trying to think of what else could even be out there because there's I don't know, do you got anything else creative in your head that maybe.
I don't know. I think we went over all the big players who would gain an extreme advantage by having Bang. It's definitely a once in a lifetime brand, and again, it's only a 30% market share with roughly 30 million in monthly revenue, and so somebody's going to get a steal. That's for sure. Joshua
Yeah.
Schall Investing might want to come in hard in the paint.
Yeah, I wasn't allowed to disclose that I put in a bid today, but now that you're mentioning it, I should probably let people know that I will be the new proprietor of Bang Energy. I'm going to be driving it around in my scooter, and I'm going to be delivering hand cases, hand packing those things at convenience stores around Texas.
Yeah, well, we have a great distribution system in Texas with Jack Hilliard and all the top dogs. That's for sure. So you wouldn't have to be doing that. You could just be delegating.
All right, I'll just do it for the social media then, so people know that I'm out there working for the people.
Yeah, I just want to close by saying that I still really love the Bang Energy brand. I don't believe I'll be any part of it unless they hire me as a consultant later. But I still believe it's the best energy drink, bang for your buck out there, and it definitely tastes the best. Nobody's ever been able to beat us in taste, and so I'm still very supportive of the brand. I want everybody to know. Yes, the situation did turn bad, but hey, in life, this is what happens. You play big boy games, $1 billion games. You got $1 billion problems, and that's where we are right now. But life is great, and all everybody that supported Bang, I want to thank you. I want to thank you, Joshua, for always reporting fairly on Bang Energy. And trust me, this is not the end of the story. We're going to do a shockumentary on Bang, and I believe it'll be the most viewed documentary of all times for Netflix. When I posted that under your post on LinkedIn, I heard that the people at VPX went into panic mode because there's a lot they're trying to hide right now. And that's what's going to make this thing so interesting. I think we're going to see some big bankers go down and people be arrested like never before. And I'm excited about that. I like the energy. But one of my things in life is that I went through this bankruptcy process. I learned how corrupt it was. And so, what I want to make sure, if I can, because we're on this earth for a reason, is to make sure nobody has to go through this corrupt process like I did and get destroyed and have them come after you personally. So, I just want to give a shout out to thanks to everybody out there, gratitude, and thank you, Joshua Schwal, again for always reporting fairly. You're definitely a rising star in the CPG industry, and I always look forward to reading your stuff. It has a lot more value than all the big companies that write about it because everything they do is slanted towards the people that are paying them. You're not on anybody's payroll, as far as I could tell, and that's great news.
Well, I appreciate all that, Jack, and I appreciate your time today and kind of obviously going into the depth on all this kind of stuff. We obviously had a lot of fun as well, but I appreciate you kind of, walking down all those maybe painful paths a little bit and staying positive. And I'm glad to see you're doing, relatively well, obviously with what's going on. And hopefully after maybe we got one of these predictions right, you'll come back on and we can talk again.
All right. Never
You ain't
forget.
banging, you ain't hanging, right?
Yeah. God bless you, brother.
Exactly. I hope you enjoyed this YouTube video. If you did, consider hitting the like button to support me. Also, help me get to my new short term goal of 3,000 subscribers by hitting that subscribe button. I'd love to see you join me on this journey, but we need to fix the fact that basically 80% of you that are watching this YouTube video right now are not subscribed to my channel, and that makes me extremely sad. But I do want to thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you on the next one.